All right, joining me now is Mary O'Grady, Wall Street Journal opinion columnist and editorial board member. She's also a Fox business contributor. And Mitch Rochelle, macro trend advising founding partner. All right, Mary, I want to go to you first, and I want to pull this up because Secretary Janet Yellen is downplaying recession concerns over the weekend. Take a listen, and I want you to react.
This is not an economy that's in recession, but we're in a period of transition in which growth is slowing, and that's necessary and appropriate. A recession is a broad-based contraction that affects many sectors of the economy. We just don't have that.
So, Mary, it seems like she's trying to redefine what it is to have a recession, number one. But number two, and Edward pointed this out, you know, a year ago she was talking about inflation being transitory. Now, instead of having not in recession, we're actually in transition. What does all this mean?
Well, she's being a little wonky here, and I think, you know, the November election looming is the main reason why. We had negative growth in the first quarter of this year, and the Atlanta Fed is forecasting we're going to have negative growth in the second quarter. And a very classic definition of a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth. But she's pointing out, and I think fairly, that the National Bureau of Economic Research is the one that calls the recession, and they factor in things like employment, real incomes, spending, and industrial production. And we do continue to have, you know, pretty strong employment numbers. So if the NBER decides that they're not going to say these 2 quarters make up a recession, then she'll be technically right. But I think it doesn't really matter for voters in November because, you know, you're having a slowdown, which she admits to, and you have that coupled with very high inflation, which is extremely painful for people because it's not keeping up with their wages. And so people are losing out. Prices are going up. They go to the grocery store, they go to the gas pump, and, you know, they're falling behind. Yeah. So that's what they're going to be talking about in November, not whether it qualifies, you know, technically as a recession.
Right. What is it? Yeah. Technically, is it a recession or
definition.
Not? You know, Mitch, going to you. Obviously, the American people don't feel really good about the economy. The number one issue with voters is the economy. Joe Biden's approval rating is 31%. But the White House continues to go back to this idea that employment is still really strong. Is employment a good gauge as to whether we're going to be in a recession or not?
If you look, Sean, at recent recessions that we've had, they were also matched with, you know, higher unemployment. So that is, historically speaking, a valid gauge. However, one of the reasons why our unemployment rate is falling is because the labor participation rate, sorry to get wonky there, is falling, meaning less people are in the workforce. So government programs to stay out of the workforce. So yes, we have a low, historically speaking, unemployment rate. But you know what? We don't have a healthy economy when people prefer not to be productive, not to take advantage of, you know, bettering themselves through work, and rather live off the government. That is not exactly a formula for economic expansion.
No, it's not. And, you know, Mary, you talk a lot about numbers, but I want to make you talk a little bit about politics. Do you think it works to tell the American people, listen, we're not really in a recession? I know you feel like you're in a recession. I know the prices are going up, but it's going to get better. Should they just acknowledge that there is a slowdown, that things are bad for the American people, and come up with a plan that's going to actually fix it for them? Or does it work to actually play these word games with the American people and the press?
Well, it's a little late, I think, for them to try to repair things before the November elections. I mean, one of the problems they're facing is that the Fed is having to tighten financial conditions in order to wring the inflation out of this economy. So, you know, whether we have a recession right now or we're going to have one in 2 or 3 months and another quarter, I think everybody is pretty confident we're going to be heading into a recession. And I think they're basically playing a game of semantics to try to get people to feel good about the economy we're in right now as they face the election.
Yeah, don't believe your lying eyes, Mary. It's way better than you really think it is. Mitch, Larry Summers, yesterday, he was the former Obama economic advisor, said there is a high likelihood of recession, and it's very unlikely that the U.S. will have a soft landing. What say you?
I don't think we're going to have a soft landing, but for the fact that we have this really bizarre situation where we have 2 times as many job openings as we have people who are unemployed. So, what would a hard landing look like? But I want to remind people, when the Fed raises interest rates, the goal is to slow down the economy, and they start to do that to business. So business invests less, which then means business creates less jobs, and the consumer can't afford to go as far as they would normally go with their spending. So you try to, as Mary said, wring this out of the economy. The fact of the matter is, an economic slowdown is inevitable. What a crash looks like is yet to be seen. But I would say we're in a recession. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck. I think it's a recession.
It's probably a duck. All right. Mary and Mitch, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
You bet.